I feel you in the wind, I see you in the trees. Everywhere I look, I feel your heartbeat. Majestic mountains high, in every drop of rain. All of this just shows me how much you love me. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your constant care for me. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your endless grace for me. In every drop of dew, the rustling of the leaves, the chirping of the birds, a perfect symphony. The smell of the flowers, the richness of the soil, the sweetness of the fruit that satisfies. I am amazed by the symphony of your creation. I am amazed by your omnipresence. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your endless grace for me. From a firefly to a shooting star, to the song the cricket sings, from the raging seas to the placid lakes, to the bubbling of the stream, from the rays I feel, from the rising sun to the stillness of the night. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your constant love for me. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty. I am amazed by your beauty and your bounty.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. We are live on Facebook and with several shares. We are now on our 5th episode of PA Talk. Um, we are very happy to be celebrating World Wetlands Day in advance with February 2 as the day of celebration. PA Talk po ay nabuo sa pagtutulungan ng opisina ni Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda at ng DNR Biodiversity Management Bureau at ng Climate Change Commission at lalo na ng mga frontliners natin sa pangangalaga ng 107 nating na isabatas na protected areas, ang mga protected area superintendents, CENRO, PENRO at regional officials headed by the regional executive directors. No? Today, we will have a quick briefing on wetlands by former BMB Assistant Director and now President of the Society for the Conservation of Wetlands, Mr. Celestino Ulep. To wrap up our discussion with policy directions, Assistant Director of the Bureau and current Acting Director, Amelia DJ Ortiz, will outline ways forward. I will be assisting Deputy Speaker Loren, who will and I will answer some of the legal questions of our frontliners in case you have any. And Deputy Speaker Loren will also read some of the interesting FB comments and questions. Let's start with not so many people knowing how to identify the term wetlands, and even fewer people know the coverage and scope of that term. Kahit pinag-aaralan ng ang mga anyong tubig sa elementarya, hindi umaabot ang usapan sa mga pangangailangan ng anyong tubig na ito para pagsilbihan ang pangangailangan ng biodiversity at saka ng mga tao. Sa episode natin ngayong araw, uungkatin natin ang isa sa mga ekosistema na may pinakamasidhing banta ng pagkawala at pagkasira. Freshwater bodies like Taal and Agusan Marsh receive the rainwater of large areas of land, and with the rain and floodwaters come all the wastes generated and unmanaged throughout these large land areas. Ito po ang palanggana na sumasalo sa lahat ng itinatapon sa lupa, kalye, kanal, etc. at sa buong lugar. No? Pati po yung erosion ay doon pupunta sa ating freshwater bodies. At ang Agusan Marsh at Taal Lake ay medyo mas kulong. No? Talagang dyan lamang mananatili. Taal Lake having a retention time of about 20 to 40 years daw. So pakinggan na natin upang magbahagi sa atin tungkol sa wetlands, ang kalagayan ng mga wetlands at yung mga kasalukuyang kinakaharap na hamon ng ekosistemang ito, si Mr. Celestino Ulep, dating AD ng PAUB na ngayon ay BMB at ngayong President ng Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands. Sir?
Thank you, Attorney Ipat. So we begin with defining wetlands. Yeah, wetlands are areas of marsh, peatland, or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish, or salt, including areas of marine water, the depth of which at low tides will not exceed 6 meters. Ito po yung definition under the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Ito po ang mga kategorya ng ating mga wetlands. We have inland wetlands. Ito yung lakes, marshes, floodplain forests, rivers, flooded caves, snowfields in Western countries, and glaciers. And then we have coastal and marine wetlands consisting of mangroves, coral reefs, seagrass beds, tidal flats, estuaries, up to 6 meters of depth at low tide. We also have human-made wetlands like rice fields, fish ponds, reservoirs, ditches, and canals. In the Philippines, we have a lot of wetlands. Given that we have 7,107 islands, we have around 280 lakes, swamps, or marshes, peatlands, areas, etc. We also have around 2,487 rivers or river systems. We are fortunate to have 7 wetlands which are considered by Ramsar as wetlands of international importance. And these 7 wetlands are the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary in Mindanao, the Negros Occidental Coastal Wetlands Conservation Area in Visayas. We have the Puerto Princesa Subterranean River National Park in Palawan, Lake Nauhan National Park in Mindoro, Olango Island Wildlife Sanctuary in Cebu, Tubataha Reefs National Marine Park also in Palawan. And then we have our very own here in Metro Manila, the Las Piñas Parañaque Critical Habitat and Ecotourism Area, formerly known as La Papachea. The Ramsar Convention on Wetlands is an international treaty providing the framework for national action and international cooperation for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. Wetlands are really very, very important. They have what we call wetland services. Ito po what we get from wetlands. Provisioning services, for example, we get water, food, biodiversity, and hydroelectricity can be provided by our wetlands. We also have supporting services. For example, the biogeochemical cycles like the oxygen cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the hydrogen cycle. These are all natural cycles of the environment that are provided by our wetlands. And then, of course, a very important service of wetlands that we often disregard. They regulate floods, drought, and of course, they are helpful in terms of climate change, reducing the risk of climate change. And then we also have the human or the cultural services provided, such as recreational services, the beautiful parks, wetlands that we have provide recreational spiritual, and educational services. But as mentioned in our introductory talk, wetlands are the most severely threatened ecosystems we have. And these are some of the threats that we are facing with regard to wetland degradation: drainage, filling, reclamation. As you know, the Marikina reclamation is very popular in the news now. That is one example of reclamation that is threatening the Marikina River and all the downstream areas. Dredging and stream channelization, while helpful, also is a threat to the uh, biodiversity and characteristics of the bottom uh, areas of our wetlands. Deposition, because of erosion, etc. So dust or soil is being deposited into our wetlands. Damming, we have, of course, that threat of construction of dams, not only the big dams, but even the small scale dams are also threats to the wetlands. Poor agricultural practices like not, not terracing and all that. So most of the agricultural pesticides and nutrients are eroding into the wetlands. Construction, runoff, air and water pollutants, the release of toxic chemicals, introduction of non-native species, the changing of nutrient levels, erosion, subsidence, sea level rise, droughts, and severe storms. And these threats, well, these are pictures of some of the threats that we have with regard to wetlands. And what are the drivers of the continuing loss of our wetlands? One of them is lack of awareness. As mentioned by Attorney Luna, kulang tayo ng kaalaman tungkol sa ating wetlands. We have no comprehensive picture of the extent and condition of wetlands. Hindi natin alam kung ano nangyayari sa mga wetlands, although some lately have been in the news with regard to Manila Bay, Marikina River, and all that. And then wetland values, yung kahalagan ng wetland. As humans, sometimes we need to speak in terms of economic quantities. So hindi ito naka-quantify. We just have to imagine the value of these wetlands. The ecological nature of loss and degradation are not well known. It's not quantified. How much are we losing in terms of wetland values pag nagkakaroon ng baha or nagkakaroon ng erosion? We don't know. And then the non-ecological causes are given less attention. It's natural. No? Our agencies mainly focus on the biodiversity causes, etc. But pollution and actually lack of awareness is a cause, and it's not given much attention. And then, of course, very important, especially to our agencies that are implementing wetland conservation, the lack of capacity, or, well, it's not very heightened, our capacity to implement wetland conservation measures. So that is just a nutshell of, by way of introduction to our wetlands. And there is really an urgent need to conserve and use wetlands wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your organization for continuing to champion the conservation of wetlands. Uh, we heard of actual extinctions happening in Lanao Lake recently. Sir, Lanao lang ba ang nanganganib? What about the freshwater species of fish that are in our lakes, that are endemic to the lakes? Hindi lang natin nakukunan ng impormasyon ng ibang lakes, o bakit 15 agad yung extinct sa Lanao at paano natin ito haharapin itong issue na ito?
I agree with you, Attorney. Tama ka, no? The IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, which comes out with the red list of endangered species. Actually, sa bilang nila, there are 15 freshwater species endemic to Lake Lanao that are now extinct, and possibly 2 other species are also possibly extinct. And IUCN attributes this to mainly to the introduction of predator species or exotic species. Plus, of course, we have overfishing or improper or destructive fishing methods. Ngayon, this is further compounded, by the human activities happening in the inlet waters, like rivers flowing into the lake. We have quarrying, for example, agricultural practices, yung fertilizers or yung pamatay ng mga pesticides. For example, now those are activities that actually find their way into our lakes, and all of these have very, very significant impacts, not only to the lake itself, but to the species found therein. And, as we said, this is one of the issues in wetland conservation, that we really lack scientific knowledge, not only in our lakes, but in all other wetlands. Very limited ang ating knowledge of the biodiversity and the limnology of our water bodies. And meron naman, whatever information we have come from the academic institutions, our researchers, our graduate students, of course, and the professors, they do limited research on certain wetlands. That is why we get most of this information. And also we have our government agencies or other special agencies doing monitoring of these wetlands. Well, I can think of LLDA, who is the agency in charge of the Laguna Lake, and of course BMB, ERDB, who are doing important research in wetlands and other protected areas. And then we have other institutions like the NFRDI, PCAMARD, plus our educational institutions like
Sir,
UPN.
but would you say that there might be other fish in danger in other lakes? Hindi lang natin napag-aralan pa? Kasi 15 agad sa Lanao Lake eh.
Oo nga. Well, sa Taal, we know that also that yung fish, that endemic fish in Taal is endangered. I have no personal knowledge of other, but I know also in Lake Buhi that the smallest fish is also threatened. So maraming, kaya hindi talaga natin alam kung, and a while ago, I think you were mentioning about, do we really have studies on what fish we have in our lakes? That is why it's important that we also tap the BIFAR. Actually, BIFAR also has a listing of all threatened endangered species.
Let's ask Ms. Maris that later. But I have another question that hopefully a quick answer, Sir Ulep, because we have 5 other speakers to go. It seems like one of the major drivers of ecosystem degradation in terms of freshwater lakes is domestic wastewater. Habang dumadami tayo, wala namang ibang pupuntahan yung duming tubig natin. Many of our protected areas have road projects and other infrastructures that actually make it faster for the wastewater to go to these lakes. Do you think the NEDA should expand the NSSMP funds to cover municipalities and cities draining into these lakes? Kasi gawa tayo ng kalye pero mas mabilis naman pupunta yung wastewater sa lakes natin at wala tayong wastewater treatment system. Would you suggest that DPWH increase the coverage of NSSMP to cover these and protect the lakes?
Yes, I tama ka, no? Much as we would like to, well, plan out the construction of roads in all of these, we have those roads, and it's inevitable that, as you said, we have domestic wastewater draining into our water bodies. And I definitely support uh, that NEDA should continue with the national sewerage and septage management program. The problem, I think, is that there are very few municipalities or cities. These are actually open to water districts and LGUs.
Wala nag-a-avail, sir, ano?
Walang nag-avail. There's a list of those who are availing, but I think also it has something to do with the paperwork or something. No? So apart from that, so mukhang hindi naman yung pera ang problema, but the bureaucratic requirements, etc. So there has to be some sort of easing of all of these. And yeah, the DPWH and the NWRB are handling this. Konti lang ang nag-avail. I think there is a list somewhere. But as of now, the water districts of all those areas in the Manila Bay, because they are covered by the Supreme Court mandamus, so they have to use this program so that they can meet the comply with the Supreme Court requirements and improve Manila Bay. But otherwise, tama ka, mabagal. And
At saka actually, sir, hindi qualified eh. Yung mga towns around Taal Lake and Agusan, hindi qualified sa NSSMP. That's why I asked whether it should be expanded. Kasi nagpo-focus syempre dun sa high areas of high urbanization. Itong mga to naman, we need protection. So dapat siguro yung PAMO offices ang tumutok na magkaroon ng funding, no? Or magpa-expand sa NEDA. So thank you, Sir Ulep. We now listen to Regional Executive Director Noni Tamayo for Calabarzon. Red Noni, let's talk about Taal Lake, close to my heart, of course.
One of the smallest active volcanoes in the world, sits right in the Taal volcano protected landscape. It has a total land area of 16,292 hectares, covering the Taal volcano island, Taal Lake, and the numerous watershed areas from the 13 municipalities and 3 cities of Batangas and Cavite. TBPL is home to a wide range of fauna, 52 bird species such as the Luzon bleeding heart pigeon, white-eared brown dove, Philippine bulbul, Philippine pygmy woodpecker, and the red-crested malcoha, among others. 15 species of migratory fish and 4 endemic species, including the tawilis and duhol, the only venomous sea snake in the country. In 2020, TBPL was confronted with various challenges, such as the Taal volcano eruption, leaving more than 9 million pesos worth of DNR facilities and structures affected, threats of the COVID-19 pandemic, African swine fever, and the damages brought about by typhoons Rolly and Ulysses, not to mention the many returning OFWs in the province due to the alarming COVID situation all over the world. In response, the TBPL-PAMB granted the request for additional fish cages to aid the income and livelihood of the LGUs and the affected communities. Temporary signages were also installed for infrastructures with fissures due to the Taal volcano eruption. As per PAMB Resolution Number 65 Series of 2020, the Taal volcano island is now declared as no human settlement land.
Thank you, Red. I can see katabi mo si Penro, who is also acting PASU, Noel Resilio. Red, alam ko taga Batangas ka rin. May we know if Taal Lake is treated by the Batangueños in the same reverence as, for example, the Banahaw is to the worshippers in of Mount Banahaw, or the Balangiga Bells of Samar. Sa tingin niyo ba yung mga tao sa Batangas ay magrarally around the volcanoes conservation and the lakes conservation if need be?
Yeah, first of all, magandang umaga sa iyo, Atty. Pat, ma'am. Of course, to Deputy Speaker Legarda, sa ating lahat, magandang umaga po. The Taal volcano landscape is very rich in fishery resources. And itong mga small fisher folks are able to access the lake where they catch different fish species, including, as was mentioned kanina, itong tawilis at saka yung maliputo. And then, of course, as was mentioned also in my intro, yung rest all contributes to the diversity of the lake. And then similarly, the Taal volcano landscape is also very rich in cultural resources. Maraming mga folk beliefs, narrative histories, and fishing practices na very unique dyan sa Taal. For example, yung paggamit ng mga isda sa Banchaw. It's a tripod actually, where fishermen would climb, but from the top, pinapana nila yung mga isda dyan sa lake. No, that's very unique to the lake. And then, of course, we also have the healing Anubing cross in Alitagtag, believed to heal different kinds of illnesses. No, of course, yung sayaw na subli na ginagawa ng mga taga-barangay Sinala sa Bawan na Batangas, especially during yung eruption ng bulkano in the previous years, naniniwala sila na yung pagsasayaw ng subli ay nakakakalma sa pag-alburuto ng bulkan. And then, of course, yung Pansipit River, which is the only outlet of Taal Lake going to Balayan Bay, also is very rich in historical and ecological importance. Sabi kasi ng mga matatanda dyan, ginagamit itong passageway ng mga galleon during those days. So very important siya historically. At ito rin ang pinanggagalingan na kabuhayan talaga ng maraming tao rito. So in closing, ma'am, I would say na yung pagpapahalaga na ginagawa ng mga Samareños o ng mga Pilipino dyan sa Balangiga Bells ay mas mahalaga or mas malalim pa ang pagpapahalagang ginagawa ng mga kababayan natin dito sa mga municipalities surrounding the lake. Kasi nga, if the Balangiga Bells reminds us of the heroism of the Samareños and the Filipinos during the Philippine-American War, ito namang Taal Lake basically provides ang ating mga kababayan dito with the resources that we need in our never-ending quest for subsistence. And that is through the very rich fish resources dito sa lake. So, ganun pinatitigyan. Of course, hindi ko alam yung
So, siguro, tingin mo pag nanawagan tayo na talagang katapusan na, kailangan na nating protektahan, ay pakikinggan naman tayo ng mga tao, and we will all rally around conservation.
Sa nakikita ko, ma'am, sa response ng ating mga members sa Protected Area Management Board, marami ang susuporta sa atin kung tayo mananawagan sa mga ganyang hakbangin sa pagpapangalaga ng ating lake sa Taal.
Makikita natin yan, tatanong ko mamaya tungkol dun sa closed season, no? And then second question, Red, lakes are naturally the repository of all erosion and wastes from over the whole basin, no? Sa Taal, 60,000 hectares plus. Do you think we are getting better at protecting the lake from land-based pollution, or are we just delaying the inevitable habang dumadami yung tao?
Well, tama ka dyan, ma'am. The lake is basically the natural repository of all erosion, mga siltation and other waste from the more than 60,000 hectare catchment ng ating Taal watershed, I would say, no? And in terms of forest cover, yung only 5 to 10% na lamang ng ating watershed dyan ang can be considered as timberland. But despite the very small area, wala pa rin masyadong forest cover yan. And basically, they contribute to soil erosion. And then, if there are no solid waste management in place, especially by our local government units, magkakaroon din tayo ng problema dyan because they will end up
sa lake area. That's why yung ating PASU and of course PASU, we ask them to closely coordinate with their counterpart na local government units para masiguro natin, ma'am, na yung sewerage and septage system saka yung solid waste management ay in place ng ating mga local government units. Isa pa, tingin namin yung mga LUs din ng susi para malapit na makipag-ugnayan tayo, yan, especially sa mga livestock farm owners yan sa paligid ng Taal Lake, because if there will be no effective yung mga water treatment facilities, they will end up sa lake at makakasira yon sa quality ng tubig diyan. So also, as was mentioned kanina doon sa DPWH, I also asked our PASU and PASU to closely coordinate with DPWH para nga ma-consider din yung paglalagay ng mga water catchment sa kanilang mga future plans. For example, sa mga road construction, dapat may mga water catchment dyan para hindi talaga diretso sa lake yung mga siltation. And I think so far itong ating TBPL had a head start with the implementation of Management Plan 2011 to 2020. At nakikita ko nga, albeit a very short time na nagmamanage ako ng PAMBI dyan, nakita ko man din yung very strong collaboration natin with the private sector, civil societies, local government units, and other government agencies. Kaya this year, nakaplano sa atin yung paggawa ng updating ng management plan, and definitely yung pagpapaganda ng water quality ng Taal would be one of the main features ng ating management plan na isasagawa natin simulang ito.
Yeah, sana malaman na natin kung within the last 10 years of implementation ng plan na yan ay tumaas o bumaba ang kalidad. That's why I asked, kung are we just delaying the inevitable? Kasi padami pa rin ng tao kahit na ang daming ginagawa natin para pigilan yung waste, no? May we hear Ronald Resilio, who is acting po kami? Paso na.
The volcano protected landscape was proclaimed through Presidential Proclamation 923, series of 1996, and is now one of the 94 legislated PAs in RA 11038, also known as INIPAS. Taal Lake has an area of 23,366.02 hectares and is the home of 39 fish species, which also includes the freshwater sea snake, duhol, and tawilis. The Protected Area Management Office conducts regular monitoring and inventory of fish cages in the lake. Based on the study conducted by Dr. Patrick White as commissioned by PPPAR, he measured the carrying capacity of the lake based on biomass production, but for easy monitoring, it was converted to a number of fish cages, which is 6,000 fish cages. Taal Lake has aquaculture zones and multiple use zones for open fishing, recreation, and navigation. The most prominent livelihood in TBPL is aquaculture, along with agricultural production and livestock raising. However, income of people were greatly affected by unforeseen circumstances in 2020, such as the volcano eruption, the African swine fever, and COVID-19 pandemic. Nonetheless, these were also addressed through provision of 3,770 additional fish cages for the local government units and residents. Among the challenges encountered in TBPL were the apprehension of illegal active fishing gears and dismantling of illegal aquaculture structures, quarrying within private lands, illegal wastewater discharge from piggeries, domestic wastewater, title lands within PA, establishment without PAMBI clearance, and implementation of 40-meter legal easements. And another one is, of course, strengthening of the PAMU office. Despite these circumstances, the DENR Calabarzon through Penro Batangas and TBPL PAMBI remain firm to address the challenges at hand. PAMBI Resolution number 65-220 paved the way for the declaration of the Volcano Islands as human settlements land. With this, recovery of flora and fauna as well as improved water quality will be expected. Continuous coordination with the municipal assessors for the cancellation of tax declarations issued within forest land were being held. Notices of violation, show cause order, and cease and desist order were also issued. Inventory of establishments within 40-meter legal easement were already initiated. To further improve TBPL's water quality, coordination with LGUs for the construction of sewerage treatment facilities was initiated. Consultation meetings with piggery farm owners were also held for a holistic approach. Shifting from traditional piggery practices to natural farming is encouraged. Quarterly water quality monitoring for river tributaries and Taal Lake and coordination with LGUs on the result for appropriate action were held.
Wow, Pasu, ang dami mong challenges. Ang nabanggit mo meron ng binibuild na sewerage, that's probably the first one for domestic, or is that for piggeries?
Umaga po sa ating lahat. Yung po mga ini-initiate na po natin yon, and sa pag-update po natin ng ating management plan, yun po ay ating i-incorporate na doon. So, but we have initial discussion with the LGUs pertaining doon sa paglalagay ng mga sewerage treatment plants para maiwasan po yung pagpunta ng mga untreated wastewater sa lake.
Okay, so sa ngayon, usapan pa lang, wala pa tayong naitatayo.
Wala pa po, ma'am.
Okay. Ang alam ko kasi yung EIA ng mga roads ng DPWH included doon dapat yung sewerage. So monitor na lang siguro natin, sir. If you had, because of your many challenges, if you had to ask the secretary for something specific that he can help you with right now, what would it be, Penro?
Unang-una po siguro ay yung mapalakasin natin yung kapasidad ng Protected Area Management Office sa pamamagitan ng paglalagay ng mga kinakailangang regular at permanenting position upang nang sa ganon ay makapag-hire tayo ng mga empleyado na may mga permanent items. At yun po ang makakatulong natin sa pagpapatupad ng mga batas, polisiya at desisyon na ginawa ng PAMB, particular na sa larangan ng law enforcement. At base po sa sinabit namin na work and financial plan, nangangailangan po kami ng 88 permanent items for the TBPL.
Ilan po?
88 po, base sa sinabit namin work and financial.
88?
Opo, kaya po naman ito yung 88 dahil 62 rito ay park rangers. So yung park rangers natin ay 62 dahil ang ratio namin ay 1:1. So 1 hectare for every park ranger. So we 1,000 hectares per ranger. So para po ma-assure natin na makakaikot yung ating mga rangers, kaya po ito ay marami-rami, 62. And meron
pero Paso, mostly private naman yung mga lupa, di ba? So private land management ang gagawin ng park rangers mo.
Part na rin po yun. Kasi may mga activities po tayo na mga nire-regulate naman kahit nasa private lands.
Yes. So kung meron most of your PAMB, Paso, most of your members of the Protected Air Management Board are mayors. Anong panawagan mo sa kanila para talagang sabay-sabay ang tulak at hindi magkakanya-kanya na at mauuwi tayo sa ano tawag dito, yung tragedy of the commons na magpasira kasi kanya-kanya?
Opo, ang panawagan po natin sa mga mayors na bumubuo ng PAMB ng TBPL ay yung patuloy nilang pagdalo at aktibong partisipasyon sa mga PAMB meetings upang mapalawak ang kanilang kaalaman ukol dun sa TBPL at upang ang mga issues and concerns ng kanilang mga bayan ay maisangguni para magkaroon ng unified rules and regulations na ipapatupad sa TBPL at ang kanilang patuloy na suporta at kooperasyon during the implementation ng mga desisyon na ginawa nila kung saan sila ay mga members.
So I guess ang challenge mo para hindi mag-away-away o kung mag-away man ay magkaroon ng resolusyon sa pabuti kaysa sa pasama, no? Kasi minsan hindi nag-aaway pero ibig sabihin pala nung pinapayagan lang yung mali, no? Sige. That's a huge challenge as the Red, challenge mo yan as the chair of the PAMB eh. Sige, lipat na po tayo sa susunod na protected area natin. Stay tuned kasi meron ding challenges ang Agusan, Marsh, Red and Penro na baka makitaan din natin ng tips. No? Our next protected area is Agusan Marsh.
Before you proceed,
nandito na si Ma'am.
yes,
ma'am.
good morning. Good morning, Calabarzon, and good morning, Caraga. Thank you, Attorney Ipat Luna, who lives by the Taal protected area. That's a lovely photo by Taal Lake. I was actually listening to your conversations while multitasking and working in my house, work from home for our work in Congress. We have simultaneous committee hearings and session this afternoon. Narinig ko ang sabi ni Paso na kailangan ng 88 na karagdagang plantilla personnel. Is this for the regional office or for the provincial office in the implementation of the protected area landscape in Taal?
Ito po ay para lamang doon sa Protected Area Management Office, specifically for
PAMB.
po.
Okay. Narinig ko rin ang sabi po ninyo, maliban sa kailangan ng karagdagang tao, ay kailangan din karagdagang pondo. You know, sa kahaba-haba ng panahon ko bilang senador na 3 termino mula 1998 at gumawa ng higit sa 8 batas kasama na ang batas creating the Taal protected area and later on we go to Agusan, madaling tulungan para humingi ng pondo. Madaling tulungan para magawa ng item. Importante yung kahalagahan ng paglagay ng pondo at ng tao. Kung gagawa kayo ng memo na hinihiling po ninyo, ilagay nyo, ano yung sitwasyon ngayon, anong problema, ano ang hamon. At how will this 88 people, assuming I have the power to help you, how will the additional funds help you? There has to be utilization of the warm bodies and the funds. Dahil, having been chairman of the Committee on Finance for 5 years and vice chair for 3 years, I've seen so much waste of personnel who may not know what to do or what their tasks are, or waste of funds for reasons beyond me. So it would be helpful so that in the NEP of 2022, you can include that. I'm sure it will be stricken off by DBM. Let me help you, but it has to be clear. Aanhin nyo yung karagdagan. Dahil sa inyong pagpapatupad ng inyong mga regular funds ay dapat isinaalang-alang po ng bawat PAMB, ng bawat regional executive director ng DNR, ng bawat ahensya ng gobyerno, ng bawat LGU, ang Clean Water Act, Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, Clean Air Act, Renewable Energy Law, People's Survival Fund, Climate Change Act, INIPAS Law Creating You, and many more. Environmental Education Awareness. Kung ang opisina niyong kinatatayuan po niyo ngayon ay isa lang ang trash bin, ay hindi kayo sumasang-ayon po sa Republic Act 9003. I am so tempted to step in now and look at your office, whether you are strictly implementing my RA 9003. And this applies for everybody listening and watching us on Zoom and Facebook now. When we say protected areas, yes, we protect, we plant, we propagate, we conserve, we preserve, we document so that people will remember what it is, because you do not know what you are protecting if you do not even know what it is. However, kasabay po niyan ang pagpapatupad ng ating batas, kasi maski tayo ay nagprotekta ng Lawang Taal, ng Pansipit River, mamamatay ang ating tawilis at maliputo kung tayo'y hindi nag-segregate ng garbage at source recycling and composting sa bahay ni Attorney Ipat Luna. Pag ang kanyang komunidad o kapitbahay ay nagtatapon ng human or food waste sa Pansipit River o sa mga kanal, pag may mga illegal fish pens, pag walang wastewater treatment, mamamatay po yan. Maski anong proteksyon natin sa gubat, maski anong proteksyon natin at pondo sa 88 personnel, if we do not micromanage the implementation of all my environmental laws and live it in your offices, in our homes, our protection will not be complete and our efforts will be defeated. So I hope everyone in this protected areas talk, those who are in the Biodiversity Management Bureau, those who are with the DNR, whom I have been working with since 1998. Mind you, I have locked them in a committee room in the Senate and lectured them for hours this way. Nakailang sekretaryo na po ako, sanay na rin si Sec. Simatu sa akin dahil sa kauna-unaang araw ng kanyang panunungkulan, nandito siya sa bahay ko, inakyat namin ang aking bubong at pinakita ko kung paano ako nagpapatubo ng kangkong at talbos ng kamote, at pinakita ko rin kung paano ako nag-iigib ng tubig ulan na siyang ginagamit ko sa pagtubig ng aking gulay na kinakain sa pang-araw-araw. Tuwang-tuwa si General Simatu. Maliban dyan, ang yumaong Gina Lopez, ganun din ang ginawa ko at halintulad ang aming buhay. Bago kay Gina, ganun din kay Sec. Mon Pahe. Bago pa kay Mon, marami pang iba. Panahon ba ni Sec. Ramos, ako pa ay mamahayag sa ABS-CBN. Kaya ang ibig ko pong sabihin, sa panahon ngayon ng 10 taon bago matapos ang Sustainable Development Goals ng United Nations, sa simula ngayon ng dekada ng United Nations Ecosystem Restoration, yakapin natin ang SDG, ang UN deklarasyon ng dekadang ito, at ang 94 protected areas sa ilalim ng aking expanded National Integrated Protected Areas System, and all the 13 before it in 1992, one of which I principally authored, the Mount Kitanglad, and all the others were other senators. All of that must be protected. However, let me just say this. Hindi ibig sabihin na merong mga marshland, wetland, bundok, marine landscape na hindi pa naisa sa batas ng Kongreso ay maaring wasakin. Hindi po. Yan lang ang batas. Everything else that is not yet legislated must be protected because legislation is slow, mabagal, masalimuot, maaring may kumukontra. Pero akuin na ninyo na inyong protected area kung meron kayong lakas sa lokal na pamahalaan, municipal ordinance, city ordinance, provincial legislation. And then, ibigay nyo sa akin, I may represent Antique in this 3 years of Congress, but I have been senator longer, since 1998. and possibly we will see going on a national scale again and global. What I'm saying, give me BMB, DNR, the list of all pending protected areas. I will file it as Antique Congresswoman, being the host of Sibalom and Northern Antique, and being the author of the 94. Ano pang hindi pa legislated, ibigay nyo. Kung ano ang legislated, protektahan nyo ayon sa 8 environmental laws. At pangatlo, PASO will give us the 88 and the funds. But you have to convince me before I can convince DBM, Sec Avisado. You have to convince me, because if you ask, everybody else will ask 88. That will be thousands of people. What about the SWD? What about the ND? What about the ILG? Everybody. So there must be a compelling reason, and tell us the roadmap. Having said that, kaya pinabayaan ko si Ipat ng 40 minutes. Mahaba ako, introduction pa lang. Because I have so much to say. And I can say this, I have so much passion, I have so much wisdom from all my decades in government. I know how to craft the laws, I know how to put the budgets, and I sincerely want to help you, because I want all the declared protected areas of our country to be the model of ecosystem restoration. So, effective immediately, I declare that all the NIPAs under our laws will be the models of the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. Attorney Ipat and I will share this with Sec Simato, will issue a memo to the BMB and the regional executive directors. And I will ask the Ecology and Climate Chair of the Congress to perhaps co-sign with me a list of tasks and to-do that is a template for all our protected areas. While my law is there, it is probably not easily understood. Dapat merong, what are the 10 ways to make sure we are complying with ecosystem restoration for our protected areas. So hindi na po hahaba ang aking mensahe. Hihingi ako ng memo sa inyo para kayo'y matulungan ko. Pero ang tanong ko, simple lang, hindi ko alam kung natanong ni Ipat to. Ang ating bang maliputo, ang ating bang tawilis ay kumukonte, pareho pa rin, o dumadami? Ang estado pa ng Lawang Taal ay bumabubuti o sumasama? At pangatlong tanong, ang Volcano Island ba nalinikas dahil sa pagputok ng bulkan isang taon ang nakaraan ay protected pa rin at talagang beyond the commerce of man? Hindi lamang dahil sa safety, dahil talagang hindi dapat tinitirhan or nagbalikan na? At pang-apat, natulungan na ba natin ang mga nasa lanta na galing sa bulkan ng Taal? Yung 4 na sagot bago tayo magpunta sa Mindanao. Thank you.
Ma'am, magandang umaga po. Maraming salamat po sa inyong mga tanong at very passionate na pahayag tungkol sa ating mga protected.
Baka na-miss na niya ako sa ganyan. Nami-miss na niyo ako sa pagkaganong ko. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, yung question niyo about dumadami ba o umuunti ang populasyon ng Tawilis at Maliputo dyan sa ating Taal Lake, that will be covered po sa presentation ng ating kasamahan from BIPAR later on.
Okay.
So, mamaya po, ma'am, I do not want to preempt the presentation yan, but definitely that will be tackled. Ngayon, sa issue po naman ng nagbabalikan ba yung mga nilikas natin from the Taal, yung Volcano Island. Actually, very recently po, last year lang, mga bandang November, nagpasa po ng resolution ang PAMBI sa pakikipag-ugnayan po natin sa PBORC na yung Volcano Island dapat ay no settlement zone. So talagang no settlement zone po yan. Bagamat we must admit na yun po ang isa sa mga challenges ng ating PASU, ng ating opisina doon, kasi yung mga tao ay nagbabalikan. That's why we are coordinating very closely doon sa mga concerned local government units na tumulong sa atin para makontrol natin yung pagbalik ng mga tao doon sa Volcano Island, because it's very, very dangerous talaga. But of course, siyempre, kaya nga po ng aming request na kukunti yung mga tao namin, maraming mga pagkakataon na talagang nakakalusot sila, bagamat talagang hinaharangan namin sana kung po pwede. Pero sa ngayon po, marami-rami na rin ang mga bumabalik dyan sa Volcano Island. So yun po, isa sa mga challenges yun. But sabi ko nga kanina sa aking opening statement, ma'am, ang susi po ng katatagumpay niyan would be the support ng mga partner natin from the local government units, kasi ito po naman ay mga constituents nila. So isa po problema namin talaga yun.
Hindi ko alam kung natanong na ni Attorney Ipat kanina, yung kalsadang tinatayo dyan ay sabi niya makakasama daw sa ating protected area. Natanong na ba yon?
Well, in a way, natas na po yun ni Ma'am kanina, tsaka doon sa opening ni Mr. Ulep, Ma'am. Pero sa amin naman po, nakikipag-ugnayan po kami, Ma'am, sa DPWH to our PASO again, na ni-request namin sa kanila na sana yung kanilang mga infra, yung mga gray infra nila dyan, yung kalsada especially, dapat merong rainwater catchment para yung daloy ng tubig will not go straight to the lake, may dalang mga siltation, no? Sana merong water catchment diyan in the construction of this mga road system nila.
What is it? A circumferential road around Lake Taal?
Yeah, yes ma'am, yung Taal Lake Circumferential Road Project po ng DPWH.
O baka naman maganda kasi it will be a tourist destination, Ipat. Yeah, we see. And so it's already ongoing and it's funded, right? So
Yes,
we
ma'am,
cannot
it's
stop
not
that.
completely on the lake shore because several towns did not want it to be on the lake shore, and freshwater biodiversity specialist said the lake shore is the highest area of biodiversity. So hindi naman lahat, pero yung 4-lane road separating the towns from the lake, baka dapat in-assess lang dun sa EMB when it issued and the PAMB when they issued the permits, what the effect will be culturally and ecologically. Kasi so far parang
Okay. Okay, that's another matter
Because,
altogether. I just mentioned that because I learned about that from IPAT, but if it's not a complete ecotourism road, it defeats the purpose, but we see. But the fact that there are some towns that are not amenable to it, there must be a valid reason why. Okay, we proceed now. Thank you so much. But you said meron pang BFAR, right? Hindi pa tayo tapos sa Batangas o sa 4A. Kala ko nasa Caraga na tayo.
After Agusan Marsh na.
Okay, we proceed to Agusan Marsh. We proceed to Caraga. Thank you very much po sa inyo. We hope to visit you very, very soon. Keep safe. Ipat, would you like to proceed to Agusan? We thank our resource persons.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think we can now hear the read of Agusan Marsh.
The Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary lies within the Agusan River in the province of Agusan del Sur, northeastern Mindanao. Its ecological significance spurred its protection through Proclamation number 913 in 1996. In recognition of its global value, the Ramsar Convention included the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary in the Ramsar list of wetlands of international importance on November 12, 1999. More recently, in 2018, through the Expanded National Integrated Protected Area System, or ENIPAS, it received stronger protection under Republic Act 11038. The Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary features 7 types of wetland habitats.
problema partially in kapital.
Notable among the wetland habitats found in Agusan Marsh are peatlands. Peatlands cover only 3% of the Earth's surface. But according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or the IUCN, about 30% of global carbon is stored in these peatlands. That's twice as much carbon that is stored in the world's forests. The protection and conservation of peatlands is crucial in mitigating the impact of climate change. When preserved, peatlands could sequester more carbon and lower greenhouse gas emission. But if destroyed, they will emit tons of CO2 and other greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. Apart from being a rich feeding ground for migratory birds during winter season, it likewise provides refuge to a host of rare plants and animals that include Philippine endemic but threatened species like the Philippine crocodile. Paradise is found where nature and humanity coexist in mutual symbiosis. Modern science and traditional practices are key approaches in conservation, where indigenous peoples have mastered stewardship of their natural environment.
Sa ako lang, nakita jud na ako ang Agusan Marsh, pinaka-importante sa amoa sa usa ka tribong manubo sa Agusanon kay maunay amo ang paningabuhian. Kay kung may Agusan Marsh, murag dili jud makapa-eskwela ang mga tribo sa Agusan Marsh kay ngano, maura ni amo ang yaman para ang akong anak masubay pa sab nila, makita nila kung unsa ang kaklase sa isda, kung unsa kadag-un. Muna karon na naningkamot mi sa kaming pangidaron nga among gihatag sa among mga anak sa mga kanang kinaiyahan nga maayo para sa sunod ila gihapon madala sa ilang anak para ang kinaiyahan hangtod nga hangtod daw sama sa ingon sa akong nabalhan nga habang buhay.
Understanding the little-known facts about wetlands and their value to humanity leads one to ponder on how blessed we are to live on this planet. Truly, the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary is one of the rare treasures you will find on our fragile Earth.
We have on the Zoom also ARD for Technical Services Attorney Claudio Nistal, representing Red Didaw. He's also the OIC Red. Thank you, Attorney Nistal. We have questions, particularly regarding the human crocodile interaction. Two of the largest crocodiles have been captured. Bakit po ba hinuhuli yung crocodiles at namamatay in captivity? And are there any measures so that both crocodiles and humans will exist together in this marsh? Mukhang yan po ang isa sa mga challenges.
Okay. Good morning to our Deputy Speaker and of course to you, Panyera. Good morning. Well, as to that question, as much as possible, we should not remove this crocodile to their habitats. No, but as to in order to promote coexistence between these crocodiles and the humans, as well as to ensure that there is a safe interaction between crocodile and human, it is my understanding that it is better really to first understand the behavior of these crocodiles. Now, we can understand this behavior through extensive community education and public awareness. Because I still believe that if we can really just understand this species of the animal kingdom, we can somehow respect these crocodiles. And if we only knew, and we should be educated on the behavior of these crocodiles. First, we should know that they are very aggressive. No, they are aggressive during the months of March to May, because these months are their egg-laying period. Also, June to August, they're also very aggressive because these are the time where these crocodiles will hatch their eggs. Also, the mating period is November to December. So if we will only understand this, so somehow we will be warned that during these months, they're so aggressive. Also, we should be educated in the fact that being predators, these crocodiles, we should know that they hunt during the dark.
They hunt in the dark.
Yes, during dark, they hunt in the dark. So if we will be aware of this, of course, it's naturally we will not go or to their sanctuary during this night time and until dusk, because if you will go there, your life will surely be in danger, because the crocodile will not determine whether you are human being or whatever. As long as you will move, as far as the crocodile is concerned, you are food to them. So it's very important to know this. Also, another behavior of these crocodiles is that they are territorial in nature. So being territorial in nature, they will surely defend their territories against all intruders, including humans. So there is really a need for us to identify their sanctuary and somehow install appropriate warning signages and other avoidance measures. Somehow this sanctuary of these animals should be considered as a strict protection zone or the no-go zone. So it is my belief, ma'am, that if we will only understand the characteristics and behavior of these animals, we can surely respect them and somehow we can coexist with them. And there should, I believe there should be an interaction between these animals will surely be safe.
Okay. Just so that to refresh our memory, si Lolong was found in the Agusan Marsh, right, Director?
Yes, Disputed Speaker.
Okay. So, nandyan kayo po ang in charge ng Agusan Marsh. Isa po yan sa mga protected areas na atin dineklara bilang batas at naintindihan namin ang ibig nyo sabihin na nandyan sila, meron silang silbi sa ating ecosystem at kalikasan, kaya nga parte sila ng protected area, pero territorial sila lugar nila yun Kakain ng tao pag pumasok ang tao. So we must know their characteristics and learn to coexist with them. Yan ang inyong sinasabi. At kailangan may striktong alituntunin kung paano ang behavior ng tao ayon sa behavior ng crocodile. Tama ba ho? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ipaliwanag po nyo sa atin ang importansya ng mga malalolong. Ayan. Una, how many crocodiles are there in Agusan Marsh? Second, this is biodiversity 101. Pangalawa, anong kahalagahan ng mga malalolong sa Agusan Marsh? Pangatlo, ano ang dapat akto ng tao sa Agusan Marsh para hindi makagat o makain ng mga kaibigan ni Lolong? Ganun kasimple. And we should educate our people on the importance of these animals that reside in the marsh so that hindi tayo nagpapasok sa kanilang teritoryo. Anong kahalagahan nila? Ilan sila? Ano ang dapat natin gawa para wag po tayong masaktan? Yan. Basic po.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. As to ilan sila, ma'am, the question, I would like to ask our PASO as to the data, as to talagang ilan sila. PASO, can you somehow educate our Deputy Speaker as to how many crocodiles really are there? And also as to their importance of the environment. But I will answer, ma'am, those the third question as to what will what will humans do in order to be safe as far as the existence of the crocodile is concerned. I believe that, as I've said, humans should be properly educated they should be properly educated, especially those areas wherein their communities are adjacent to the territory of these crocodiles. No, and the only thing that they should be properly educated is through extensive community education and public awareness. So that, as I've said, if they can only be educated as to the characteristics of this animal, then they will tend to respect these animals, and that they will know that during the months of March to May, June to August, until November to December, these animals are very aggressive because, as I have said, these are the egg laying time, egg hatching, mating period, and that this community also must be educated that although these crocodiles are there, but they are also predators. So unterritorial, as you said, ma'am. So as much as possible, we should not, disturb their sanctuary, especially during at night, and especially if they are hungry. That's why, as I've said, it is really incumbent for us to put appropriate warning signages and other avoidance measures. And as to the other two questions, ma'am, so that we can have a correct data of that, I would like to ask our PASO to please answer the Deputy Speaker as to the two questions. Ma'am Elay, please.
Yes po, good morning po. Good morning po, Deputy Speaker. With regards po doon sa tanong po na how many yung crocodiles within the marsh, actually, based po ng survey ng Crocodilosporosus Philippines Incorporated, wala po silang naibigay po na concrete figure as to how many po talaga yung crocodile within the marsh. Kasi very limited po kasi yung nakonduct nila na study during that time after po nung na-capture si Lolong. But they depended more on yung focus group discussion and the tracks na nakikita po nila along the areas na pinuntahan po nila for the survey. So more on the tracks and more on the focus group discussion and yung mga sinasabi ng tao na nakikita nila ang crocodile within this area, doon po medyo naka-anchor yung population survey ng crocodile. Pero hindi pa po na-determine yung actual figure as to how many. Kasi kulang pa po talaga ng extensive study as to population survey within the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. As to the importance po ng crocodile, well, ang crocodile po in an aquatic ecosystem is actually an indicator of a wetland's health. Kasi po, ano po sila? Top predator po sila. So the mere presence of crocodile in a wetland ecosystem indicates na healthy pa yung ecosystem within that site. And based on literature, sinasabi po nila na yung excreta ng crocodile, yung mga waste po nila, yun po yung tumutulong para po sa food ng mga fishery resources, yung mga aquatic species po natin na nasa loob ng marsh. And their constant movement po sa loob ng ating wetland ecosystem, yung sa mga water bodies po natin, nakakatulong po sila na hindi po ma-shallow. Parang hindi po siya mas stagnant po yung area na yon. And yung tubig po, yung depth po ng water is ma-maintain po siya. So part po yun sa importansya ng crocodile. And yung ano po niya, yun pong binibigay po niya na parang ano po, yung sa excreta po niya for the food source ng mga fishes po natin na nasa loob po ng ating aquatic ecosystem. Yun po yung isang importance po ng crocodile, bakit kailangan silang mag-stay sa isang wetland ecosystem po.
Very good. Aside from the Agusan Marsh, meron pa bang ibang mga marshland in the country na merong ganyang species ng crocodile o dyan lang likas or endemic dyan?
For the crocodiles po, actually may mga studies po kaming nababasa na yung crocodiles, especially yung Philippine crocodile, existing po din siya sa other sites within the Philippines. So, endemic po siya sa Philippines, nasa Northern Sierra Madre, sinasabi din po nila na meron sa Agusan Marsh kasi natural habitat po talaga nila yung mga marsh, yung mga wetland ecosystem. So hindi lang po siya exclusive for Agusan Marsh, but for wetland ecosystem po natin, meron po
Very
mga
good.
crocodiles na present.
Okay. Aside from the crocodile, ano pa ang mga mahalagang biodiversity na meron sa Agusan Marsh na dapat natin pagtulungan pangalagaan?
Aside po dun sa Philippine crocodile, meron po tayong Philippine duck, which is nasa endangered status na din po siya. So kailangan
Duck.
din po natin siyang i-protect kasi Philippine duck po, yung mga pato,
Ato.
oo, yung wild duck, oo, yun po. Kasi nanganganib na po siyang mauubos because of yung hunting nga po na ginagawa sa kanila. And yung ano kasi nila, nature kasi nila, doon po sila minsan kumakain sa mga areas na may mga agricultural, dinevelop na po for agriculture. So, because of that, yung mga tao minsan nagagalit doon sa mga Philippine duck na yun, sa mga wild duck na yun. Kaya minsan, naglalagay po sila ng mga poison. So, isa po yun sa
Nako.
naging reason why our Philippine duck is declining.
Okay, question. Ito bang Philippine duck po na sinasabi ninyo ay yung edible na duck? Kinakain niya na duck? Hindi.
Edible din po siya. Pareho din po siya sa yung domesticated duck po natin. So, hinahunt din po siya for food. Kasama
Kaya
din po siya.
siya
Kasi edible din po yung meat
nagde-decline.
ng ating
So,
Philippine duck.
Okay. So, the Philippine
po.
duck found in the Agusan Marsh is endangered and further declining. Question.
Yes po. Actually,
Yung mga masasarap na kinakain sa Chinese restaurant na duck, yan ba ay Philippine duck or yan ay imported duck? Yung delicacy, yung mga kinakain na duck, yan ba yun?
I think po yung sa mga Chinese restaurant, ibang species naman po siguro ng, kasi meron po tayong Peking duck, meron po tayong iba-ibang klase po kasi ng ducks. Hindi lang po siya Philippine duck, meron po tayong Westland duck, Peking duck. Maraming species po actually ng duck.
Question, basic question, layman ha. Yung Peking duck na kinakain, yan ba ay halos similar sa wild Philippine duck found in the Agusan Marsh o ibang-iba?
Actually po, hindi po ako ganun ka-oriented doon sa
Peking duck.
specifics po ng Peking duck with regards to wild duck. Oo.
Pero yung wild duck, nakatikim
So, siguro
ka na ba?
po, more or less similar po siya.
Pero nakatikim ka na ba
hindi
ng
po.
wild duck? Okay, bawal ba kumain?
Hindi pa po ako nakatikim.
Bawal ba kumain ng wild duck?
Based po sa ating law, it's actually protected po yung ating mga wild duck because of its declining na po na status.
Bawal, okay.
Nasa critically endangered status na po siya, so bawal po talaga siya.
Okay. Ilan pa, meron ba tayong bilang, hindi lamang ng crocodile, kung hindi ng ating wild Philippine duck that is found in Agusan Marsh? At saan pang mga bodies of water, marshlands, peatlands, kung saan ay merong wild duck?
Actually po, ang Philippine duck is isa po siya sa species na minomonitor po natin sa site in our biodiversity monitoring system and an annual waterfowl census. So more or less nasa thousands of species po siya sa whole area ng Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. And nakikita po siya hindi lang sa isang specific site ng ating protected area, hindi po sa isang specific lake area kasi napakalawak po ng ating Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. So distributed po siya sa whole Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. So much of the wild duck na nakikita natin, medyo naka-concentrate na siya doon sa mga areas na medyo shallow po. Hindi po malalalim ang tubig. Doon po sila sa mga shallow areas. Yung sa shallow po ang tubig.
Okay, tell us. Pag mawala na itong Philippine duck which is critically endangered, ano po ang masamang epekto sa ating Agusan Marshland na protected area? Anong epekto niyan sa komunidad na nakatira doon? Anong effect, if any, sa ating buhay at biodiversity? Or mabubuhay naman tayo maski wala yung duck kung hinanting na lahat at kinain na lahat at trinade na lahat, paano na? Is there an adverse impact to our biodiversity? I'm sure there is.
Yes po, lahat Yes po. Lahat naman po ng wildlife natin, meron po silang role na ginagampanan sa ating ecosystem. So kasama po sila sa tinatawag nating pag-maintain ng ating ecological balance. Kasi yung mga ducks po natin, may role po sila in maintaining yung pagiging dominant or invasive ng mga species like yung mga crustaceans na kinakain po nila, yung mga shells na kinakain po nila. So isa po yun sa nagiging role ng Philippine duck natin na mini-maintain po nila yung balanse ng ating ekosistema. So if those species will be gone, including other species like crocodile, yung mga flying foxes natin sa Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary, so in the end po, yung ating sinasabing ecological balance na tinatawag, kasi ang Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary is na-proclaim po siya because of its important as sanctuary po ng mga species of wildlife. So definitely it will affect the ecological integrity ng Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary.
Very good. How interesting. Pagkatapos ng mga lockdown natin, ha, bibisitahin kita, ha?
Sige po.
Yes. Anong mga bayan ang nakapalibot sa Agusan Marsh? Napakalaki niyan eh.
Yes po. Meron po tayong 6 na towns. Yung municipalities po ng San Francisco, Bunawan, Rosario, Loreto, La Paz, and Talacugon. And dun sa 6 na municipalities, sumasakop po siya ng 38 na barangays.
Okay.
So, yun po yung coverage ng Agusan Marsh.
So, yung 6 na municipality ang nakapalubot sa buong Agusan Marsh na?
Yes po.
Okay. At yung mga mayor at ang mga barangay captain sa 30 plus na barangays, alam nila batas na yan and they respect the law and are protective of it.
Yes po. Actually po yung mga barangay captains po natin are very supportive naman po. They are members po ng ating Protected Area Management Board. And sila po mismo talaga yung nag-a-attend during our PAMBI meetings.
Anong mga indigenous peoples group ang nandyan sa Agusan Marsh?
Ang Agusanan Manobos po. Actually, they are
mga
the
Manobo?
indigenous peoples. Yes po.
I see. How nice. Okay. At meron ba silang mga weaving community, ang mga Manobo sa Agusan Marsh?
Actually, sa ngayon po, wala na po kaming nakikitang nagwi-weave talaga sa loob ng Agusan Marsh. But in other towns po ng Agusan del Sur, meron pa naman po. Like in Esperanza, may portion po ng sa Loreto area. So, hindi din po siya totaling wala within the province.
What is the best take-off point for a view of the Agusan Marsh sa 6 na LGU? San Francisco? From San Francisco, makukita mo ba yung Agusan Marsh?
Actually, because po sa complexity ng Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary and because of its flat terrain, medyo mahirap po talagang makita mo ang buong Agusan Marsh in just one view, isang vantage point. Kasi kailangan mo talaga, even sa amin po in our monitoring activities, ang ginagawa po namin is we do yung drone mapping, yung drone videos, yung drone shots. Yun po yung ginagawa namin kasi because of its flat terrain, mahirap po talaga. So, may portion po actually in San Francisco, in the municipality of San Francisco, itong Mount Magdiwata, na medyo may part po ang Mount Magdiwata na may overlooking view po siya ng Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. So, dito po siya sa other side po, which is Aki Biodiversity Area naman po yung Mount Magdiwata.
Okay. Kasi nung ako'y senator, naglagay ako ng pondo para sa isang visitor center sa bawat protected area. Hindi ko alam kung nabigyan ba kayo noon, panahon yun ni Director Mundita Lim. Meron ba akong natayo dyan na visitor center sa Agusan Marsh o wala pa?
Actually po, dun sa funding na na-provide niyo for ecotourism development,
yes,
may naitayo po tayong floating cottage within the lakes po natin. Yung pinilot po natin for ecotourism within the lake. Kanlabuhan po in the marsh. Yes po. But unfortunately po, during the typhoon last year, medyo na-damage nga po siya. So kailangan talagang i-rehab na naman po.
Saan sa mainland ang pinakamagandang vantage point para ma-appreciate at magkaroon ng mga eco-tour at lakbay-aral at even view ng marsh? Siguro dun sa parte ng mountain na sinabi nyo. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. I just wanted to...
Yes po. Yung Mount Magdiwata is an overlooking area.
Okay,
Marsh.
there is road access already.
Sa Mount Diwata po.
Meron ng road access to that vantage point.
Hindi pa po siya up to the foot of the mountain po. Mayroon po silang mga road, pero up to the mountain top po, may mga trails naman po kasi inaakyat po siya actually ng mga climbers, yung Mount Magdiwata na part
Okay,
na yun.
very interesting. Ipat, you may continue with the other questions on biodiversity. Thank you so much. I'll continue to be observing. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate the interventions also. Especially on the specific biodiversity questions, no? Assumed dapat na alam yon ng lahat ng frontliners natin, no? Let's hear from Pasu. Ituloy mo na yung peatlands presentation.
Yes po. So the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary, as what has been mentioned, is a complex network of marshes. Yung nakikita po ninyo sa pictures, rivers, lakes, swamps, and peatlands at the heart of the Agusan River Basin in northeastern Mindanao. So known po siya worldwide because of lolong, which confirmed the presence of this top predator in Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. It is home to the Agusanon Manobo that comprises 60% of the communities in the marsh. So yung mga communities po natin sa loob ng protected area have their unique way and for adaptation to the wetland ecosystem with their houses na nakabuilt on stilt and floaters made of thatched bamboo poles that are being tied on a tree so they just rise and fall with the water. And yung dugout canoe or motorized boats are the major mode of transport, especially if you are going to the interior of the lakes. And fishing is the major source of living as an aquatic ecosystem. So peatland is one of the rarest, unique, and the least understood and understudied ecosystem in Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary and even in the Philippines because its presence was confirmed in the Philippines only in 2005. So as you can see in the picture, this is the Kaimpugan Peat Swamp Forest, which is the country's largest intact peatland forest that is estimated to store 22.9 million tons of carbon within its 5,487 hectares area. So the peatlands are formed in waterlogged condition characterized by its peat soil with semi-decomposed organic matter, black water, stilt roots of plants, and deep peat. So part po siya ng adaptation ng mga species natin, itong mga stilt roots na nakikita po natin within a flooded environment. The Kaimpugan Peat Dome was also called Wonderlands by the locals because of these unique features ng area natin wherein trees of the same species na nakikita natin sa tall forest decreases in size and richness as one approaches the intermediate and the pygmy forest na yung trees po natin na nakikita at the edge kasing tangkad na lang po ng normal height ng isang tao. So we came to know peatlands in Agusan Marsh when we participated this training workshop on peatland assessment and management in 2010. Yun po yung first ever training on peatland we had in the country. Back then, wala po talaga tayong knowledge and understanding kung ano yung peatland, ano yung functions niya, how it was formed, and how it will impact humans if degraded since oftentimes it is regarded as wastelands and wala talaga siyang gamit. So we get our experiences in peatland conservation and management when we started locating. So nakikita po niyo sa mga pictures, yung nagdidig po kami, kumukuha po kami ng mga soil samples to test if those areas na inassess po namin, yung probable peatlands na yun is peatland ba po talaga based on the soil component po niya. Kasi yung peat soil po is composed of yung semi-decomposed organic matter na nagkumpul-kumpul over time. Ang peatland kasi natin is nade-develop po siya 1 millimeter of peat in a year. So it took 1,000 years for a 1 meter peat na depth na peat to develop. So ganun po siya katagal. So given the importance of peatlands nga po, in-include po natin yung mga peatland areas natin in the expansion of Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary per RA 11-038. Though some of our peatlands were given protection through the passage of the Inaypas Act, there are several threats and challenges that threatening the existence of our. Isa na nga po doon yung conversion of peatlands for agriculture, construction of drainage canals, yung oil palm plantation, and peat fires. Yung pinaka-biggest threat to peatland is actually yung drainage. Kasi dinadry up po niya yung peat soil natin, making it highly susceptible to forest fires and land subsidence. So nakikita po natin dun sa picture yung mga oil palm, para pong nagtatapple down po siya. It's an indication po, or it's a sign na may land subsidence po na nagaganap within that area. Though several activities were already conducted kasi before may capacity building naman na ginagawa during the ASEAN Peatland Forest Project, and may mga awareness campaign naman na ginagawa, but still there are a lot of works to do pa to keep it fully protected. Wala po tayong funds solely for peatland conservation, and yung protected area actually na Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary lacks the manpower to carry out park management and protection. Kasi 8 lang po ang ating personnel under contract of service status, and isa lang po yung permanent staff na detailed from Penro Agusan del Sur Plantilla pa rin po. So kulang din po tayo ng technical capacity and machinery, especially during mga fire incidences. Kasi yung mga fire trucks po natin, although nakipag-coordinate naman po tayo with the Bureau of Fire Protection, mahihirapan po tayong mag-penetrate doon sa areas na may sunog because sa lalim po ng pit meter, even sa shallow pit areas or even doon sa edge. So minsan, ang nangyayari po is parang nag-aantay na lang kung kailan umulan, nagdadasal na lang para umulan para ma-suppress yung fire. But even actually ang ating mga peatland areas naman in Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary, hindi naman siya ganyan ka-degraded. So yung forest fires is usually more on surface fires lang po na nangyayari. Kasi yung ating peatland areas, ano pa naman siya, healthy pa naman yung ating peatlands. So hindi po siya ganun pa ka-degraded. And challenge din po sa atin is because yung peatland areas po natin are located mostly in classified, alienable, and disposable lands. So there are areas na na-release na siya with titles and even CLOAs. Kasi ang tagal po kasing na-legislate ng ating Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary from 1996 being a proclaimed protected area na 19,000 hectares pa lang po yung area niya until naging 40,000 in 2018 na nag-expand po tayo na na-cover na po yung mga peatland areas, yung mga sago forest po natin, yung terminalia forest, na nakikita po natin outside of those proclaimed protected areas. So nakikita po natin na isa din pong challenge is wala talagang national policy directly dealing with peatlands and even wetlands. While there are existing laws po natin like PD 705 and the Water Code, but there are still gaps po in existing laws that can help in protecting peatlands and even other wetland types. So with our belief na ang essence po ng collaboration in the park management, we engage champions who can help us in the field. So mayroon po tayong tinatap na mga partners in the field. So this is Ate Freda. She is one of the chairperson of the People's Organization in Kaimpugan, and she is also an active Bantay Danao volunteer. She is instrumental actually in the design yung demo farm before during the ASEAN Peatland Forest Project as part of the Alternative Livelihood. May dinesign po noon na demo farm for the floating vegetable garden. But then yung floating vegetable garden was damaged by floods and hindi na po siya talaga na-sustain. So yung organization was later on engaged in handicraft making using water hyacinth as raw materials. Ginagawa po nilang slippers at saka bag. And the People's Organization is actually now earning from this biodiversity enterprise. May assistance naman po ang DENR and of course ang provincial government through the Penro LGU. As a Bantay Danao volunteer naman, she has contributed to the curtailment of timber poaching, wildlife hunting, and electrofishing activities in their locality. So si Ma'am Sally, siya po yung counterpart natin sa Penro LGU from the provincial government of Agusan del Sur. Siya po yung nag-spearhead ng mga various activities under the convergence mechanism in Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. So she led the creation of the Bantay Danao Group volunteers from our Biodiversity Brigade volunteers before. Na-expand na po siya. At ngayon, tinatawag na po namin Bantay Danao Group volunteers within the Agusan Marsh, and the provincial government is providing insurance. No, and Ma'am Sally is also Siya po yung nag-led actually in the declaration of the local conservation areas that goes beyond even yung expanded area po ng ating Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. And various livelihood activities were also offered to communities as social fence to lessen dependence to natural resources. So may assistance po sila sa local communities natin within the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary for jam making, using fruits of catmon and libas trees native to the marsh, and charcoal briquetting and sleeper and bag making using water hyacinths na nakikita po natin na abundant po siya in the marsh. So peatlands become our selling point in our aim to become an ASEAN Heritage Park, to level up visibility of the park in international conventions that further strengthen support and collaboration for its protection. Kaya nga in 2018, na-declare po tayo as the newest addition to the ASEAN Heritage Park networks as the 42nd in the ASEAN region and the 9th AHP site in the Philippines. It also paved the way for the first public partnership for peatland conservation ng DENR with PLDT Smart in the protection, conservation, and sustainable management of peatlands that aims to further provide support to the Protected Area Management Office in carrying out peatland management and conservation strategies under our PE management plan. So aimed at this partnership, this partnership would play a big role in highlighting the AMWS and widen appreciation of the public on peatlands kasi yung focus po ng project is on peatlands and the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary na rin in general through its various networks and linkage. So it would also support lobbying po ng peatland bill that aims to strengthen protection of peatlands not only in Agusan Marsh but in the whole Philippines. So yun po, maraming salamat and mayong buntag sa tanan.
Thank you for that. Para lang ma-clarify ko, no? Yung peatlands na sabi nyo na recognize noong 2018, yan ay parte ng protected area na dineklara under the INIPAS law or hindi pa yan nasakop sa measurement ng aking batas?
Actually po, naisakop na po yung portion ng na-assess na peatlands kasi may 8 po tayo na-assess peatlands within Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. And yung dalawa po, yung Kaimpugan peatlands and yung Talakugon peatland, nasa loob po siya mismo, whole area of those peatlands nasa loob ng ating protected area, yung legislated na po under INIPAS. But there are other areas na may portion lang siya na naipasok doon sa legislation, like yung sa Kalingayan in Rosario and yung may portion po ng Osmeña peatland. And may isa pa po tayong peatland na medyo malaki-laki yung Pag-asa Santa Josefa na medyo malayo na po kasi siya sa ating Agusan Marsh, no? Kasi nasa floodplain area na siya, medyo malayo-layo na for doon sa ating na-legislate na PA. So medyo nasa labas po talaga sila ng ating legislated PA.
Pag sinabi nating peatland, ito yung mga logged over areas, tama? Are these formerly logged areas? No.
Actually, hindi po siya. Yung condition, not necessary po, yung condition po na na-develop po yung peatland is yung waterlogged, yung may parati pong tubig. Kasi
palaging
yung po yung
parang inland siya sa lupa, no? Pero palaging submerged sa tubig.
Yes po, yun po yung...
Pero meron din bang, are these also logged over areas na nababasa inland? No. Hindi.
No, hindi po siya. Bali, ang condition po na na-develop po yung peatland is usually po, in between po siya ng 2 rivers. Kasi para po siyang palanggana po. So during flooding, yung mga naanod po na mga debris ng kahoy, ng mga dahon, na nag-accumulate po siya doon sa basin na yon, doon po siya through time, na-develop po siya, na-form po siya ng peat soil. Yun na po yung tinatawag natin na peatland. Kasi
so,
later on,
pag sinabi nating peatland, ito yung parang recessed area, parang mga mas mababa na mga lugar na nagkasama-sama ng mga decomposed organic matter na nagiging parang malambot na soil, no? Na may mga dahon, may mga dry leaves, parang nababaha. Ganun ba yon? Correct?
Yes po. Yes po. Actually po, mga semi-decompose, hindi po talaga sila nadadagta. Kasi kung titingnan mo po yung peat soil profile, makikita mo pa talaga yung buong trunk ng puno na naanod, yung branch, yung dahon, hindi po siya talaga nadadagta. So yun po yung parang isang condition bakit na-form yung peatland. So ang ano po kasi ng peatland areas is yung peat soil po niya, ang composition po niya is more or less 35% organic matter, and yung tubig po niya is 90% water po. So yung sinasabi po natin parang espongha, pag umapak po tayo sa peatland, para po siyang
Oo.
espongha na gumagalaw. Yan po.
Ayun. Okay. So, ang mga peatland ay usually yan ba'y nakapalubot sa marshland? Is it yung mga periphery from the mainland, peatland, tapos marshland? Hindi. Are they necessarily katabi ng marshland?
Hindi naman po siya ganun. Pero more or less po, parang ganun po siya. Kasi ang ano po niya is, yung condition po na para ma-develop siya is in between rivers, no? Tsaka yung ano, para siyang palanggana na doon nag-accumulate yung organic matter na nawawash out during flooding. So yung na-develop po talaga yung mga peatlands doon sa areas na mabababa po talaga sila. Yung kanyang, oo. So
Sige.
pwede din po siyang sa marsh,
Mm-mm.
kasi yung terrain lang po ng marsh is ano din po.
Okay. Paliwanag mo sa atin, ano ang importansya, kahalagahan ng mga peatland sa ating ecosystem?
Okay. Ang peatland po natin is may pinakamalaking role po siya in carbon sequestration. So tinatawag po
Very
natin
good.
siyang natural carbon sinks.
Carbon sink.
And may function po siya in water regulation kasi wetland din po siya. So yung pinaka-function po ng wetland na nagre-regulate ng tubig, kasama din po siya sa functions ng ating mga peatland areas. So yun po yung importansya ng ating peatlands, na kapag dinigrade po natin siya, yung function niya in terms of flood regulation, in terms of combating climate change, mawawala na po siya.
Okay, may tanong ako. Kung dahil sa pagkabagsak ng tubig sa ating mga peatland, ay gagawa tayo ng natural water catchment, yan ba ay makakatulong? Dahil dyan bumabagsak ang tubig. Pag inaapakan mo nga parang sponge. Kung tulungan natin ang nature at magtayo tayo ng water catchment sa bagsak na lugar na yan, mahaharm ba yung biodiversity or makikinabang sa tubig?
Actually, it's sort of natural catchment naman po talaga yung peatland kasi wetland areas po siya.
Yes.
So, kung tutulungan po nating ma-preserve yung ating mga natural assets, yung tinatawag nating natural assets, yung mga wetlands po natin, yung peatlands po natin, we are protecting the biodiversity that is within this.
Okay, clear. Anong pwedeng natin matanim na?
So,
Anong pwedeng
by
matanim?
protecting the biodiversity.
Yes. What is it we can plant na makakain or magamit sa mga peatland?
Most of the species na nagtathrive in peatland areas, nakikita po natin yung sago, yung lumbia po na ginagawa po siyang pagkain, actually staple food po ng mga communities during flooding season kasi hindi po sila nakakapagtanim. So isa po siya sa...
Sago. Sago.
Yes po, yung sago.
Oh, okay.
Pero medyo nahihirapan lang po siguro kami sa timing on the planting season kasi nagawa po siya before as one of the commodity that is being planted in our national greening program. Kaso during flooding season, yun nga po, hindi nagso-survive yung mga sago seedlings na tinatanim. But other species po like yung mga katmon, libas, na actually yun yung commodity ngayon na tinatanim ng other people's organization naman po natin under National Greening Program na nasa Loreto area naman po. Yun yung ginagawa po nila ngayong parang raw material for those jam, libas and katmon jam and cookies. So the communities are earning from those resources.
Very good. Meron akong tanim na katmon. So ang katmon ay mahusay para sa peatland at saka sago. At yung puno na libas, yung libas na pampaasim ang dahon?
Yes po, oo.
Meron ako niyan. So ang libas ay gustong-gusto niya ang peatland.
Yes po. Kasama na din po actually yung lanipaw tree, yung Terminalia copilandae. na para po siyang payong na naka-layer. Yun po
Oo.
sila yung mga species talaga na nakikita natin in our peatlands.
Natutuwa ako sa iyo. Mamaya tatawagan kita. Ang daming alam. Natutuwa ako sa iyo. Okay. So, maganda yung ating ginagawa ngayon, Ipat, no? And all our PASU. Kasi pag tayo o mga scientists, eksperto, lawmakers ay nag-uusap, ang tendency natin, pag-usapan natin biodiversity, siyensya, climate change, carbon sink. Pero pag i-operationalize natin at pag-usapan natin yung sago, yung katmon, yung libas, yung ginagawa sa pagkain, yung jam na ginagawa mula sa libas at katmon. So in short, sa bawat unit, facet ng biodiversity ecosystem area, ano ang bagay itanim na mapapakinabangan, kainin, o kabuhayan, that's allowed in protected areas, right? Because sustainable livelihood naman yan, that's a renewable resource if we plant. Magandang malagay natin yon, diba? Okay, baka ako lang na-excite sa mga natututunan ko. Anyway, so you continue. I've been warned, it's already 10 to 12. Pagkasama ako sa programa, humahaba dahil maraming tanong eh. Sige, continue po. Okay, I will listen now again.
I think we've asked Pasu the questions we need to
Okay.
ask her. We now go to Ms. Maris Mutia of the NFRDI.
Thank you very much. Our PASU, wait, let me see. Our PASU Emily. Salamat.
Thank you po.
Dagang salamat.
Thank you po. Dagang salamat din po. Welcome.
Kamusta sa mga manobo dyan, ha?
Sige po, makakaabot po.
Okay, dear. PASU, wait, let me see. Our PASU Emily. Salamat.
Thank you po.
Dagang salamat.
Thank you po. Dagang salamat din po. Welcome.
Kamusta sa mga manobo dyan, ha?
Sige po, makakaabot.
Hi, Ms. Mutia. From the National Fisheries Research and Development Institute. Ms. Maris
Hello.
Mutia.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I prepared a video, so pwede po i-present na lang yung video.
National Fisheries Research and
Good morning,
Development.
everyone. I am Maria Teresa Mutia of the National Fisheries Research and Development Institute. I am happy to share with you the story of the conservation efforts in the Taal Volcano Protected Landscape for the endangered Sardinella tawilis, the only freshwater sardinella in the world found in Lake Taal. In the Philippines, there are 11 species of sardines. 10 are found in the marine waters, while only 1 species in freshwater. This is Sardinella tawilis, locally known as tawilis. Tawilis is the most commercially important fish in the capture fisheries of Lake Taal. Majority of the fisher folk and their households depend on tawilis fishing alone. However, due to unsustainable fishing practices, tawilis production has declined over the past 20 years. The exploitation value of tawilis has gone high due to overfishing. Also, the presence of introduced and invasive fish species pose a threat to our native species in the lake. In 2018, the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species declared tawilis as endangered. However, even before the declaration of the IUCN, the TVPL management has a clear program for tawilis conservation stated in the management plan and the URRF. Under Section 4B, tawilis reserve areas must be established to serve as spawning grounds of tawilis. A closed season will be declared to give time for tawilis to spawn, and the right mesh size of fishing gear will be used to regulate the size of fish being caught. And to have a science-based policy for the implementation of these conservation measures, the DA, NFRDI, and BIFAR, in collaboration with TVPL PAMU, PAMB, and LGUs, conducted studies to provide information on the biology and status of tawilis. The studies aim to know the spawning season and spawning ground of tawilis and determine the right mesh size of fishing gear being used by the fisher folk. The results of the studies show that the peak spawning season of tawilis is during the months of March and April. Therefore, it is during this time that a close fishing season is recommended to give time for tawilis spawners to spawn and repopulate in the lake. The presence of abundant tawilis larvae were found in 4 areas: in Sala Balete, Mataas na Kahoy, Pulang Bato San Nicolas, and Cuenca.
Thank you, Ma'am Maris, for being the second generation of Tawilis protectors. No, I know that your mom is also an avid Tawilis researcher, and your genes might have something to do with what connected you to the Tawilis of Taal Lake. Ma'am Maris, mukhang ito yung isa sa pinaka direct conservation measure na nakita ko na batay sa scientific study, no? Kasi siguro napilitan na rin tayo, although before that ay nagko-close season na tayo at nagkakaroon na tayo ng Tawilis Reserve Area. Pero inaasahan kasi namin yung ibang studies magko-convert din dun sa mga conservation measures. So how do you think this was brought about when did the PAMB get your presentation so they knew where to establish the Tawilis Reserve Areas? Maganda kasing model kung paano nagre-react ang policymakers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Attorney Ipat. Also, thank you for inviting me. Isang magandang storya to ng isang science-based policy na ginawa natin sa TVPL, ano. So, dangan nga lang naputol yung yung video, pero dun sa last part ng video, dun ko pinakita yung science and turning it into policy. So, from the very start, ang NFRDI, BIFAR, at saka ang TVPL management, especially our PAMB, PAMO, nagsama na yan even before. Kasi nagkaroon ng idea, kasi member ang NFRDI ng Research Council. So through our consultations, through our meetings, dun talaga nag-crop up yung need for the research, for the conservation natin sa ating tawilis. And then, since member tayo ng Research Council, doon din nag-start ang NFRDI, ang BIFAR, na magkaroon ng ganitong klaseng research. So, mahabang panahon, hindi lang isang taon yan ni research ng NFRDI. So, about, we started in 2015, hanggang ngayon, tinutuloy pa rin namin yung stock assessment, and then yung larvae ng tawilis na noon hindi namin malaman kung talagang nasaan yung larvae. So finally, pina-DNA pa namin yan, no, para talaga ma-convince natin yung ating mga stakeholders na hindi ito isang isda lang sa lawak ng Lawa ng Taal. Pina-DNA pa natin yung larvae para masabi natin talaga na ito yung mga lugar na spawning areas nila. So kaya nang dahil doon sa ating research findings, pinresent namin yan sa PAMB. Of course, first pinresent natin yan sa Fishery Subcommittee, which is chaired by BIF. And then, inelevate ito sa PAMB Execom. And then, doon naintindihan naman ng ating PAMB Execom. Natuwa naman ako dahil naintindihan nila na ito ang isang sardinela na nag-iisa lang sa buong mundo. Wala tayong makikita nito sa buong mundo at it is only found in our lake, the third largest lake in the Philippines, which is Taal Lake. So doon nagtuloy-tuloy na yung ating pakikipag-ugnayan sa PAMB, sa TVPL PAMO, sa BIFAR, at isinulong talaga natin ito. Kaya sinabi ko nga dito kanina, even before the declaration of its endangered species by the IUCN, may ginagawa na ang TVPL, PAMB, TVPL management dyan. So kaya nga nung ma-declare, before the declaration, meron ng resolution for the closed fishing season ng tawilis. And then sinundan naman ito doon sa declaration naman ng Tawilis Reserve Area. Kaya lang, inabot tayo ng Taal Volcano eruption, no? Kasi 2018 yung resolution na na-approve, 2019 Tama ba? Yung ating yung ating eruption 2020, no? So
2020 yung eruption, 2019 naging endangered ayon sa IUCN.
Okay. So i-implement pa lang natin yung ating close season, nagkaroon na tayo ng eruption and then nagkaroon na tayo ng COVID. Pero even before the eruption, meron ng initiative ang ginawa ang TVPL-PAMB, TVPL-PAMO with BIFAR and NFRDI. So nag-ikot na yan, nagkaroon na ng mahabang consultations, kinausap na mga stakeholders, and then nag-identify na din kami together with the PASO, TVPL-PAMO, nung mga areas ng TRAs. So I think siguro yung continuous awareness campaign lang na alagaan talaga natin yung ating tawilis. Sa tingin ko, with the cooperation of all agencies, NGOs, and stakeholders, magtutuloy-tuloy yung ating campaign or advocacy dito at ang population ng ating tawilis ay gaganda.
Ma'am Maris, hindi namin nakakita yung dulo ng video. Do you think we should, kasi naputol yata yung signal dun sa where it was being shown. Do you think we should continue?
Yes,
sige,
yes,
tuloy
sana.
daw.
Oo. Tuloy natin. Thank you.
ODSL staff, can you please show the rest of the video? Kaya nagtuloy na kami ng discussion kasi naputol. Ayan, screen sharing na si ang BMB pala.
The presence of abundant tawilis larvae were found in 4 areas. In Sala, Balete, Mataas na Kahoy, Pulang Bato, San Nicolas, and Cuenca. These areas are recommended to be the tawilis reserve areas in the lake. And lastly, result of the study on mesh size regulation recommends the desired gill net mesh size of tawilis is 11 knots or 3.04 centimeters. The results of the studies were also published in peer-reviewed journals and presented to PAMB through the Fisheries Subcommittee chaired by BIFAR 4A. The TVPL Protected Area Management Office initiated the stakeholders' consultations for the implementation of the closed fishing season and the establishment of the tawilis reserve areas. In 2018, TVPL-PAMB approved resolution numbers 49 and 63 declaring a closed fishing season of tawilis during the months of March and April. Also, TVPL-PAMB approved resolution number 64 for the establishment of 4 tawilis reserve areas in the lake. To raise awareness on the status and importance of tawilis, a Tawilis Summit in February 2019 was initiated by the Philippine Society for Freshwater Science in collaboration with different government agencies, the academe, LGUs, and stakeholders. In November 2019, a consultative workshop on tawilis conservation and management in Lake Taal was initiated by NFRDI in collaboration with BIFAR, TVPL-PAMO, and stakeholders to discuss a tawilis conservation roadmap to ensure sustainability of conservation efforts for tawilis. The success in ensuring the sustainability of conservation efforts for tawilis lies on the partnership and cooperation among stakeholders such as the different government agencies led by DENR, the academe, NGOs, and the people's organizations. For the Department of Agriculture, BIFAR and NFRDI will continue to undertake research studies and technical advisories for the conservation and management of the fishery resources of the TVPL. Thank you very much and mabuhay ang industriya ng pangisdaan sa Lawa ng Taal.
Thank you, Ma'am Maris. I think when we were in preparation stage here, we realized that BIFAR's major mandate is production and food fish. But under the Wildlife Act, you are the ones in charge of other fish as well that constitute wildlife and biodiversity. And the example of Lake Lanao, for example, yung 15 na extinct doon, mukhang hindi talaga yon ang focus ng studies ng BIFAR as an institution, no? And we were talking about a BMB BIFAR collaboration together with the PAMOS in order to ensure that the ones that are not food fish also get studies, because that seems to be a gap. What do you think is the way forward with respect to this, so we can also conserve fish that are not part of the focus of BIFAR?
Yes, thank you, Attorney Ipat. Currently, we have this policy. We call it the protected area red listing of the different species in the country, no. So it is composed of different groups, and NFRDI is leading this. So we have several committees that undertake the assessment, no, the assessment of the different fishes in the country. So hindi lang ito food fish, pero different
Lahat.
fishes din. Oo, lahat, oo.
Okay.
I think, sorry ha, it is the Philippine Aquatic Red List.
Right.
Philippine
So hindi
Aquatic
lang
Red
sa protected
List.
area. Okay.
Yes, oo,
So
hindi lang protected area.
What it does is it assesses the inventory, biodiversity inventories in all the lakes? Or tinitingnan lang niya alin ang critically endangered or endangered?
Hindi lang lakes, but it also in marine waters. So it's all the fishery resources, the fishes in the country.
Okay. Have you seen that this has converted into policy like your research did in Taal? Yung mga findings ng red listing?
Ang number one example nga was the Tawilis, no? Yun yung I think that was the initial output of the committee, na yung Tawilis ay naging sample doon sa mga committees, and it was spearheaded by the different scientists, Filipino scientists sa BIFAR, NFRDI, na kaya nga nagtutuloy-tuloy na ito. And even for the Lake Lanao, the main author there, which is Dr. Torres, is also a member of the policy committee.
Pero wala pang conservation measures yung iba. Tawilis pa lang ang may policy response.
So far, with regards to freshwater, parang sa tingin ko yun yung isang may maliwanag na conservation response, no? And I think this is one of our advocacy nga, na sana maging magandang halimbawa itong ginawa natin sa Tawilis. 'Di ba, Attorney Ipat, ang haba ng journey natin diyan. So kaya nga hindi natin tinitigilan ito hanggang ngayon. I'm happy also to inform everyone na we have an approved project by BIFAR. It's a collaborative project by BIFAR and different LGUs also. We will involve the NGUs and the PASU with regards to the coming up with an artificial propagation, no? Artificial propagation sana, kasi we were able to breed already maliputo. Kanina na-mention ni Deputy Speaker Loren na what is happening also with maliputo. So we already tried to breed maliputo in captivity, and it's already here in our center in Butong, Taal, Batangas. So maybe baka sakali we can also breed Tawilis in captivity para hindi tayo manganganib na mawawala ito, kasi wala namang imposible kung hindi natin susubukan. Sa research talagang kailangan natin subukan para magkaroon ng answer kung ating mga questions. So we are currently doing it. So hopefully magkaroon tayo ng magandang result dito by this year.
Ma'am, last question. There are fishes in certain water bodies that might be endangered but are being collected by hobbyists, and they might be the only remaining examples of those species. Kasi dapat may permiso din yun, pero hindi naman minsan nila hinihingan yon kasi hobbyists lang sila, mas gusto nilang i-conserve lang, and they don't know when they will find these ones. Is BIFAR siguro, are you willing to help allow these hobbyists the freedom to collect representatives of these species in danger? Minsan daw kasi i-cover na yung water body pero may mga barbs doon, kinuha na lang nila kasi mamamatay din. Are you allowing hobbyists to do this ex situ conservation in order to conserve species? Pwede ba humingi ng permit dyan na generic?
Attorney, alam ko kasi pagka ganyan, especially kung protected area, hindi ba bawal talagang mag-extract ng mga resources dyan, especially kung hobbyist nga sila. Pero I think for research purposes, pwede tayong kumuha ng sample if we have a research to do. So I think kung lalo na kung endangered sila, kailangan makipag-collaborate muna kasi yung purpose, what is the purpose of them collecting it? Kung as a hobbyist lang
Actually,
and then
direct conservation na yung mga narinig kong storya nila kasi tatabunan na yung water body, hindi sa protected area, pero tatabunan na yung water body, may mga barbs doon na, tapos yung sisementohan na yung tabi, may mga barbs doon na nakita sila by accident, gusto lang nilang kumuha kasi mauubos na nga. Parang ganun lang yung kwento. So I was thinking maybe Taal and other areas should be issuing generic hobbyist permissions that allow rescues like this? Parang ganon. Do you agree with generic permissions that allow rescues whenever the habitat is already highly endangered, like the one they mentioned na i-develop na?
If the purpose is to develop or to rescue this endangered species, of course, magandang magandang gawin 'yon. But of course, siguro kailangan, attorney, na magpe-present sila or makikipag-dialogue sa PA, Protected Area Management, yung long-term plans for that. Kasi it's not only na maganda yung purpose, pero what are saan patutungo itong ang kanilang mga rescue operations? And it should be shared, hindi lang for a specific or certain hobbyist to do that. It should be shared para kasi lalo na yung mga barbs nga, madali lang i-breed yan in captivity. So, pwede yan ma-share para mas lalong madami ang makapag-produce to repopulate, and then we will enhance the lake. We can have a stock enhancement of this species.
Yes, thank you very much, Ma'am Maris. Ibig sabihin lang may posibilidad na mag-grantan ng permit ang mga hobbyists in order to help with the conservation initiatives, no? Kasi minsan nga nangyayari na lang pero actually walang tumitingin dun sa barbs other than the hobbyists. But if red listed, all the more reason, no, na that we can have ex situ conservation measures. Thank you, Ma'am Maris. There are many other threats to these kinds of habitats, not the least of which is domestic wastewater. So all of us are contributory to domestic wastewater. Anytime you are in a basin, that's part of what you are doing to the basin. Ano? Dapat may awareness tayong lahat na kung nandun ka, kasama yung dumi mo sa pumapasok doon, unless you have a wastewater system. So thank you, Ms. Maris. There are Facebook posts that we can read. I think DSL is asking us to close, but let's just do the Facebook post readings for now so that we can have our participants see, our experts also see what the public is concerned about. Question for Pasu Emily: are there ongoing peatland-friendly livelihoods and enterprises in the Agusan Marsh peatland? And what support do they need to become viable, sustainable enterprises? I think that was answered, and you said Katmon and Lapinao and Jams. And that was from Jerome Montemayor. Aurora Lazaro said, we do need to present the problem and the challenges that the 88 personnel will face as they assume the position. So rangers ang tinitingnan nating i-hire dun sa 88. So kailangan itama natin yung gagawin nila doon sa kanilang capacity. So if we're going to hire 88 rangers, that's ang sweldo niyan, what, 8,000 or something like that? Will 20 be assigned to the lake and the rest, the 40 to the land area? Magkaibang skills ang kakailanganin para doon, di ba? Gusto nyo bang sumagot, Enro, Pasu, or Red?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Tama po yun, no? Definitely, lalo na, for example, yung mga spawning grounds ng mga tawilis, hindi pa natin nga na-demarcate yan at as of now. So, kailangan talaga natin na mag-hire ng mga rangers to help us in the protection of these areas. Kasi ito talagang walang nagaganap na mga fishing sa mga lugar na ito. And of course, those naman sa terrestrial component, definitely iba rin ang skills na kailangan natin doon. Basically, part doon would be yung monitoring ng mga, sinabi ko kanina ma'am, na mga threatening the lake, yung mga developer dyan na walang kukulang permit sa atin, then definitely that will be part of the rangers' responsibilities later on. Yeah.
Okay. So sabi ni DSL, i-justify lang natin at tutulungan naman niya tayo kung paano natin ma-fully staff yung ating Protected Air Management Office. And the same with Agusan Marsh. I think that's for all protected areas. If we can justify what we are saying, if we can justify that these are absolutely needed for biodiversity conservation purposes and the objectives of park management, then I think we can get the kind of budgets that we need and the capacity building also that we need. If there are no more questions, si AD Ortiz, nandiyan na? Who can give us a policy wrap-up, what the policy responses of the BMB will be?
Okay, magandang umaga. Thank you very much, Attorney Ipat. Pasensya na po at galing din sa kabilang meeting. Good morning to Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda and to all our guests. So on the part of BMB, we would just like to share yung pong policy directions on the conservation and management of inland wetlands. So last August 5, 2019 po, the House Bill 3460, which is the National Wetlands Conservation Act, was filed. This is authored by the Honorable Mujib S. Hataman of Basilan and Honorable Amihilda Sangkopan of Anak Mindanao Party List to the House of Representatives. And this bill was referred to the Committee on Natural Resources also last August 7, 2019. So the said House bill is similar to our proposed executive order entitled Establishing a National Wetland Policy and Creating the National Wetlands Conservation Committee, which institutionalizes wetland conservation and wise use, and the creation also of an oversight committee for this purpose. So the draft executive order was presented to the DNR Policy Technical Working Group last November and currently due for revision and approval, hopefully approval. So the legislative measure on the national wetland policy will seek to consolidate the various wetland-related legal provisions dispersed in several laws. So this will provide the needed guidance for the key national government agencies, as well as the local government units in adjusting their sectoral or local policies, plans, and programs to be consistent with the conservation and wise use of wetlands. This will also greatly enhance efforts to raise awareness of existing legal provisions on wetland conservation and wise use, as well as the importance of wetlands and its multitude of functions and values. In addition to this will serve as an opportunity to comply with the directives to mainstream disaster risk reduction and management, climate change, and biodiversity conservation in policy formulation. And finally, it will help us meet and beat our international commitments, specifically to the Convention on Wetlands, the Convention on Biological Biodiversity, the Convention of Migratory Species, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, 11 of which wetlands play a critical role in achieving if and only if we scale up our efforts to conserve, restore, and wisely use this very precious resource. Also, this bill will be the driving force to achieve the long-term vision of our Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022 in ensuring ecological integrity through improving and strengthening wetlands conservation and management. So the BMB has also prepared policy on wetlands, which is the Department Administrative Order or the guidelines on the designation and recognition of wetlands of international importance and national and its management and guidelines on the management of inland wetlands. The approval of these policies will ensure the protection, conservation, and wise use of all wetlands, critical for our daily survival, from the food we eat to the water we drink, the protection we get against flood and storm, and the livelihoods we gain, all contributing to the well-being of the present and future generations of Filipinos. We further underscore that protected areas integrate different programs and plans in its management plan to ensure utmost conservation and management of these natural and cultural heritage sites of the country. As adaptation to the recent and growing challenges on the environment, such as climate crises and pandemics, the Protected Area Management Plan mainstreams interventions for climate change mitigation and adaptation, prevention of zoonotic diseases, and management of invasive alien species, which will in turn lead to ecosystems restoration of our protected areas. So that's all, Attorney Ipat, and thank you.
Thank you, Acting Director A.D. Ortiz. There are sometimes very hard choices to make. No, for example, Wetlands International said that a majority of the migratory birds actually roost in the areas that might be affected by the airport, and they have a plan to move it 600 meters lang or inland. May mga ganun kasing kailangang desisyonan, no? Have you encountered these kinds of hard decisions in implementing the Wetlands Action Plan and in coming up with the plan itself? Kasi itong mga desisyon na ito ang importante para malaman natin kung kaya natin. I mean, plans are written to address things in the long term, but we are also faced with certain questions like these, the hard questions. Yung mga development plans po na makaka-affect sa wetlands, for example, like reclamation, ganyan.
Thank you, Attorney Ipat. Actually, actually po, yun na nga ang isang justification natin ba't kailangan talaga magkaroon po tayo ng batas. And on the part of BMB, as talagang nakikipag closely coordinate kami with the other bureau like the Environmental Management Bureau para at least po yung mga concerns on the biodiversity side na may mainstream na rin natin dun sa mga kailangang ma-address ng EMB. So before sila mag-issue ng mga environmental compliance certificate, at least on our part, medyo nai-forward na natin kung ano kung ano yung mga kailangang isama pa nila at mai-consider during the review of the environmental impact assessment.
Thank you. I hope the law and the plan will help us conserve the remaining wetlands that are in retreat, especially in this decade of ecosystem restoration. We've had viewers from all parts of the country, many from protected area management offices, and we've also asked some of the questions already. I think it's past 12 and it is time to close our episode 5 of PA Talk. Madami po tayong napag-usapan na sana meron din policy responses kagaya nung sa issue ng freshwater fish conservation, no, na baka may gaps. At saka yung mga budgets para dun sa ating rangers in both protected areas. So thank you very much all the speakers. Earlier nakaalis na si Sir Ulep, pero Red, Noni, and ARD attorney, also the Pasus here. Thank you very much. Thank you, AD Ortiz. And it's time to close. And we invite them to the next episode of PA Talks, when we will also deeply delve into the frontliner issues that are confronting our protected air superintendents, PENROS, REDS, and SENROS. Salamat po ng marami sa lahat.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks,
Maraming
Red.
salamat
Thanks,
po,
Pedro.
attorney, and to DSL. Sana po masuportahan kami dun sa mga pinupush nating mga batas. Salamat po.
Attorney Ipat, in behalf of Caraga Region, thank you very much. And to everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Nistal.